You know, I'll tell you, sometimes it is frustrating to try to get people to see the truth, to see what the book of Revelation is really about. I was a premillennialist for over 10 years, read over 100 books on the topic, can talk to most people more about what futurists believe than what they understand. I know about the 7-year tribulation, the abomination of desolation, the counting of the word church and churches, the belief of the New Jerusalem and the 1,000-year millennial reign, walking on literal golden streets, literal pearly gates. I have seen it all. An Antichrist, a cashless society, rapture, pre-wrath rapture, pre-trib rapture, post-trib rapture, the abomination of desolation at mid-trib, where the Antichrist goes into the rebuilt temple and he declares himself to be God. I have heard it all, read it all, believed it all at different points. I'm here to tell you that none of that is true. If you study the book of Revelation, you will find that it is the revelation of Jesus Christ. It is the revealing of him. The New Jerusalem is as a bride adorned for her husband. Who is the bride? It is the church. It is built on the 12 foundations of the apostles. Look at the New Jerusalem and see those names of the apostles in those 12 foundations. Where if Ephesians tells you that the church is founded on the 12 foundations of the apostles, Jesus Christ being the chief cornerstone. Read Isaiah, where it is prophesied that at the time of Christ, one of the revelations of Jesus Christ, one of the prophecies of the Old Testament is that he would build the church. He would have gates, he would establish it, and the church would have gates of praise, would have high walls of salvation. Look at who Mystery Babylon represents. Golden cup full of the blood of the prophets and the saints. Who does the New Testament say killed the prophets? Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killeth the prophets. Read Ezekiel 16, where God found Jerusalem as a babe polluted in their own blood, umbilical cord uncut, cast into an open field. He had compassion on that baby, and it became the time of love. He spread his skirt over her. He entered into a covenant. That was a marriage covenant with Jerusalem. But Jerusalem became a harlot. Why? Because of worshiping other gods, worshiping the Chaldean gods, the Assyrian gods, the Egyptian gods. This is what Jerusalem continually did. And as a result of doing that, God wound up divorcing her and wound up marrying another. And you see this parallel with two cities of Jerusalem and the New Jerusalem. Notice in Ezekiel 16 that Jerusalem was adorned just like Mystery Babylon, in the purple, in the silver, in the gold, in the fine linen. These things are also something that you'll find in the tabernacle of Moses. All of this just comes together under the revelation of Jesus Christ. Read Revelation 7. There's a multitude that appears before the throne that no man can number, of all nationalities, of all tongues. Who is this? This is the Gentiles that have been grafted in. This is another revelation, another thing that happened as a result of Jesus coming. Another thing that is revealed in Revelation that happened, that was prophesied in the Old Testament. Isaiah tells us straight. He says, broaden the tent, lengthen the cords, strengthen the stakes, we shall inherit the Gentiles. That was prophesied. That was something that happened as a result of Jesus Christ, that the Gentiles have been grafted in. We see that in Revelation chapter 7. I can go through the plagues. I can go through the vials or bowls, and I can tell you and show you how they parallel and how it was prophesied that if Israel turned their back on God, that he would give those same plagues to them. And he does. When they turned their back on God and worshiped other gods, Jesus came and he said he brought a sword, that he did not just bring peace, that he brought a sword. And that sword was down on the neck of Israel and Jerusalem for worshiping other gods. And he brought those same plagues. Look at the bowls, look at the trumpets. You're going to see boils. You're going to see the death of the firstborn in Jesus. You're going to see the water turning to blood. You're going to see the locusts. You're going to see the frogs. You're going to see the sky. You're going to see the black sky. You're going to see all of these things that happen as a result of Jesus that were prophesied again in the Old Testament. I want to touch on one other thing that many people don't see. When you look at Revelation 4:1, you will see John go through a door in heaven. Now, pre-tribulation believers look at this and think this is the rapture of the church. It says nothing like that. All it says is that John is in the beginning, first 3 chapters, he's on earth. He hears the sound of a trumpet, a door is opened in heaven, and he goes through that door. In Revelation 4, he describes God's throne, the 4 living creatures. He describes the 24 elders, God sitting on the throne. What happens in Revelation 5? Well, no one is worthy to open the scroll that is in God's right hand. And we see a lamb that had been slain. That's Jesus, right after the resurrection. A lamb that has been slain. It's obviously post-resurrection, and we see when he went through that door, he sees Jesus there. Jesus comes and takes the scroll, and everyone begins to sing a new song. That is in comparison to the song of Moses. They sing a new song, and they say, "Worthy is the Lamb to receive all power, honor, and glory, for thou wast slain." Read Matthew 28:18. When Jesus comes back to the disciples and lets them touch them, he says, "All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth." Why does he make that statement? He makes that statement because he had just come back from the Father. Remember, after the resurrection, he sees Mary at the tomb and he says, "Touch me not, I've not yet ascended to the Father." Then he comes back and he lets the disciples touch him. He's obviously been to the Father during that time, or he wouldn't have let them touch him, as he wouldn't let Mary touch him. So you see him receive all power, honor, and glory. You see the Lamb that has been slain. You see him come back to earth, visit the disciples, and say in Matthew 28:18, "All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth." That is because he has been to the Father. You have seen the unfolding of Revelation while he is in heaven, right after the resurrection, and then you see him come back to earth. All of these things line up with the revealing of Jesus. These things are not to be understood in a futuristic manner. They're not to be understood in some literal fashion, that you're literally going to walk on golden streets. I want to tell you something. God's not interested in literal gold. He's not interested in pearly gates. These things are spiritual in nature. And too many people, and I've said this before, are like Nicodemus. You know, Jesus said, "Ye must be born again." And he questioned how a man could enter his mother's womb a second time, because he couldn't get his mind out of the physical. He couldn't understand that these things were spiritual in nature. He couldn't understand, any of what Jesus was trying to teach him at the time, that you must be born of water and of spirit. When we look at the 7-head, 10-horned beast of Revelation chapter 13, people just look at that and they say, "Oh, that's the European Union," or "That's the kingdom of the Antichrist that comes." But yet the New Jerusalem, that's literal. We're going to go there for 1,000 years. We're going to walk on literal golden streets. But the 7-head, 10-horned beast, no, that's not literal. That's symbolic. The woman that is arrayed in purple and silver and fine linen, that's riding the 7-head, scarlet-colored beast, 10-horned beast, over in Revelation 17 and 18, well, that's not literal. That's symbolic of something else. But the New Jerusalem's not symbolic. It's not the church, which it is. It's symbolic of some literal place that's going to be 2/3 the size of the United States, cubical in nature, and is going to be just as high. And they don't see the symbolism of the Holy of Holies, the place that is that cubicle place that is in the Old Testament. They don't see the symbolism of what represents the church, even though it says, "as a bride adorned for her husband." People just are not getting the right perspective of the book of Revelation. They want to take some parts and make it literal. They want to take some parts and make it spiritual or symbolic of other things. And they don't realize that the whole thing is the revelation of Jesus Christ. It is the revealing of him. It is the revealing of his spiritual accomplishments. It is the revealing of the Old Testament prophecies that were fulfilled in him. And when you parallel them over to the Old Testament and you have the correct perspective, you understand that it is the revelation of Jesus Christ. It is not about an Antichrist. It is not about a 7-year tribulation. It is not about any of those things literally. They are all symbolic of spiritual things that have already happened. It is a new heaven and a new earth. And if you looked at Jesus and you saw just a regular man, then you were missing the King of Kings, because you were looking with your physical eyes. And he did not look like a physical king, but he was a king. He said that his kingdom was not of this world. Out of his own mouth, he said, the kingdom of God does not come with observation. Men will not say, lo here or lo there. Behold, the kingdom of God is within you. That is the kingdom that he come to establish. Salvation makes you a member of that kingdom. But if you're waiting for a physical kingdom, or you're looking for something physical, you're going to miss the spiritual kingdom that has already come. That the same kingdom that is in Daniel that struck that statue and enveloped the whole earth. It's a kingdom that reigns in your heart. And if you look, you will see kings. Jesus was the King of Kings. He had many crowns on his head. He had robes on his back. But if you look with your physical eyes, you're not going to see him, because his kingdom was not of this world. So you also have kings that have crowns on their heads. You have kings that walk on golden streets. Beginning of Revelation says he has made us kings and priests. That is a reality right now. The church has walls of salvation, gates of praise. There are kings walking on golden streets. Every step you take, because of the new covenant, it is a new heaven and a new earth. Quit waiting, quit looking for the physical when it is spiritual and symbolic in its understanding. And doesn't it make sense? The very beginning of Revelation, the revelation of Jesus Christ. That's exactly what it is. God bless.